The school called me at 3:47 on a rainy Tuesday afternoon. I was in my woodworking workshop in Portland, Oregon, running a piece of walnut wood through the planer. The noise of the machine was loud, but my phone was on the workbench, and the screen lit up with a 541 area code. Bend, Oregon. I did not know anyone in Bend except a couple of timber suppliers I had not spoken to in 4 years. I wiped the sawdust off my hands and answered, expecting a sales call. "Hello, is this Clifford Vance?" the voice on the other end asked. It was a woman, her tone professional but strained. "Yes, this is Clifford," said. "Mr. Vance, this is Diana Mercer, the principal of Cascade Heights Elementary School in Bend. We have your daughter, Lily, in the office. She has been waiting here since school let out at 12:30. It is now nearly 4 p.m. We have tried calling the other emergency contacts, but no one is answering. We need you to come collect her immediately." I stood still, in the middle of my workshop, the planer still humming in the background. "I think you have the wrong number, ma'am. I don't have a daughter. I'm 58 years old. I live alone in Portland. I haven't been to Bend in years. Mr. Vance, I am looking at Lily's student registration card. Your full name, Clifford Vance, is listed as her father. Your phone number is here, and your address in Portland matches. Her mother, Clara Albright, added you to the emergency list 6 months ago with a notarized document. We tried calling you back then to verify, but the calls went to voicemail. My breath caught in my throat. Clara Albright, the name hit me like a physical blow. 8 years ago, in the summer of 2017, I spent 6 weeks in Bend. I was 50, renting a small cabin by the Deschutes River to clear my head after a difficult divorce that had left me quiet and solitary. Clara was 38, a landscape architect who worked with local native plants. We met at a local garden center. For 6 weeks, we walked along the river, drank coffee on Galveston Avenue, and shared dinners on her back porch. It was an intense, quiet connection between two older, independent people. When August ended, I went back to Portland to my workshop. We sent a few texts in September, but the conversation slowly faded. I assumed she wanted her space, and I was too guarded to push. I had not heard from her since. "Mr. Vance, are you there?" The principal's voice broke my thoughts. "Yes," I managed to say. "Yes, I'm here. Did you say Clara Albright is the mother?" "Yes, Clara Albright. We have been trying to reach her since 1 p.m. Her phone goes straight to voicemail. Her parents, Roger and Martha Albright, are also not responding. If we cannot find a guardian soon, we are required by district policy to contact Child Protective Services." "Don't do that," I said quickly, my hand gripping the workbench. "Please, I'm leaving Portland now. It takes about 3 hours to drive to Bend through the pass. I will be there as fast as I can. Please tell Lily, tell her someone is coming." I hung up the phone. I switched off the planer, grabbed my jacket, locked the workshop, and got into my Subaru. My hands were shaking as I keyed in the ignition. An 8-year-old girl, Lily. If she was 8, that meant Clara was pregnant when I had left Bend in late 2017. She had never said a word. She had raised our child alone for 8 years without telling me. The anger and confusion fought for space in my chest as I drove east on Highway 26, watched the pine trees replace the city buildings. At 5:30 p.m., just as I was passing through Madras, my phone rang again. It was Diana Mercer. "Mr. Vance, I have some difficult news to share before you arrive," she said. Her voice was much softer now. "We finally reached Roger Albright, Lily's grandfather. He is at the hospital in Redmond. He had a sudden cardiac episode this afternoon during a routine checkup. His wife, Martha, is with him. He is stable but cannot leave." "I understand," I said. "I'll go pick Lily up and take her to them." "There is more, Mr. Vance," the principal continued, pausing for a long second. Clara Albright passed away 2 days ago. She had been ill for a long time. The grandparents were supposed to pick Lily up today, but with the medical emergency at the hospital, they were delayed and forgot. Lily went to school today not knowing her mother was gone. We had to tell her here in the office with the school counselor. She is devastated, Mr. Vance. She is sitting here waiting for you. I could not breathe. Clara was dead. The vibrant woman who knew every plant in the high desert, who laughed with her whole body, was gone, and my daughter, our daughter, was sitting in a school office, having just learned her mother was dead, waiting for a father she had never met. I drove the rest of the way in total silence. I arrived at Cascade Heights Elementary at 7:10 p.m. The building was dark except for the lights in the main office. A tall woman in a dark coat was waiting by the locked front doors. She let me in without a word and led me down the quiet hallway. In the principal's office, a woman was sitting on a small couch next to a little girl. The girl was small, wearing a yellow knit sweater. She had brown hair, pale skin, and dark eyes. In her lap, she held a worn stuffed elephant. Next to her on the couch was a small wooden puzzle toy, one of those hand-carved blocks where you have to slide the pieces to open it. It was missing a corner piece. As I stepped into the room, she looked up. Her eyes were red, but she wasn't crying anymore. She looked at my face, my graying hair, my hands calloused from years of woodwork. She stood up slowly, clutching the elephant to her chest. "Are you Clifford?" she asked. Her voice was small but steady. I went down on one knee on the carpet, keeping my distance so I wouldn't scare her. My throat felt dry. "Yes, Lily, I'm Clifford. I'm your dad." She looked at me for a few seconds, processing my face. Then she walked over and put her small arms around my neck. She didn't say anything, she just held on tight. I wrapped my arms around her, feeling her small shoulders rise and fall with her breath. I held my daughter for the very first time in my life, while the school counselor wiped a tear from her cheek. The Albright farm. We walked out of the school together. Lily's hand small and warm in mine. She carried her purple backpack and her stuffed elephant, Mr. Pickles, while I carried the small wooden puzzle toy. In the parking lot, she looked at my Subaru Outback. "It's bluer than Mom's car," she said. "What kind of car did your mom have?" I asked as I helped her into the back seat. "A red Toyota with dents on the front. She hit a deer 2 years ago. It made a loud noise, but the deer ran away and the car still worked." She climbed into the seat behind the passenger side, not the driver's side. I realized she did this so she could watch me in the rearview mirror. As I pulled out of the parking lot, she looked at me through the mirror. "Clifford? You can call me Dad if you want to," I'd said gently. "Or Cliff, whatever feels okay for you." She quieted for a moment, tracing the ears of her stuffed elephant. "Mom said when I met you, I should tell you she was sorry. She said you were a good man who lived in Portland, and that you would come when it was time." My chest tightened. "She didn't have to be sorry, Lily. She did a wonderful job raising you." "That's what she said you would say," Lily murmured. "I think I want to call you Dad." "I would like that very much," I said. The Albright farm was located 20 minutes outside Bend, down a county road lined with dry grass and towering ponderosa pines. It was a 2-story farmhouse with a wraparound porch and a red barn behind it. A white pickup truck was parked in the driveway. As I pulled up, a tall man in a gray flannel shirt and worn jeans stood on the porch. He was 75 years old, with white hair and a deeply lined, weathered face. A smaller woman in a navy cardigan stood next to him, her hands clasped tightly. I parked the car, went to the back seat, and unbuckled Lily. She was light but solid. I carried her on my hip up the porch steps. The man looked at me, his eyes red and swollen. He looked at my hands holding Lily, then at my face. "You have the same hands," he said, his voice rough. His wife touched his arm. "Roger, let them in. The child needs to eat." We went into the warm kitchen. The smell of beef stew filled the air. There was a loaf of bread on the counter and a pot of coffee brewing. Martha Albright took Lily from my arms, hugging her tightly. "Hello, my sweet girl. Are you hungry?" "A little," Lily said. "Sit at the table. I have some stew for you." Roger looked at me, then gestured toward the front door. "Outside, just for a minute." I followed him out to the porch. The night air was cold and clean. Roger closed the door behind him and stood by the railing, staring out at the dark barn. When he turned to face me, his jaw was set. "8 years, Vance," he said, his voice shaking with a mix of grief and anger. 8 years we've been helping Clara raise that girl, believing you knew about her. Believing you chose to stay in Portland and play with wood while my daughter worked herself to the bone." "Mr. Albright," I said, keeping my voice calm despite the pain in my chest. "I did not know." He stared at me, his eyes narrowing. "What do you mean you didn't know? Don't lie to me." "I am not lying. Clara and I had a 6-week relationship in the summer of 2017. When I left in August, she did not tell me she was pregnant. She stopped responding to my texts in October. I had no idea Lily existed until the school principal called me at 3:47 this afternoon. If I had known, I would have been here 8 years ago. Roger stood completely still. The anger in his face slowly cracked, replaced by a look of profound confusion. She never told you? No, never. My God, Roger whispered, turning back to the railing. He rubbed his face with both hands. For 8 years I've been hating the wrong man. I thought you were a coward who abandoned his own blood. I don't blame you for thinking that, I said. But it isn't true. He let out a long, ragged breath. Clara left a letter for you. It's on the kitchen table in her apartment. She told me about it last week when she was in the hospital. She said it was only to be given to you after she passed, and only when you came for Lily. She also set up something else. What did she set up? Her lawyer, Gordon Finch, called us yesterday, Roger said, looking at me with a strange expression. Clara established a family trust, the Albright Vance Discretionary Family Trust, under Oregon law. She put her 40% share of this farm and all her savings into it. And she named you, Clifford Vance, as the successor trustee to manage it for Lily. Even when she was hiding the truth from us, she trusted your integrity enough to give you control of her estate. She knew you would do right by Lily. I was stunned. Clara had planned everything. She had kept me a secret, yet she had bound me to her daughter's future with ironclad legal threads. Tomorrow morning at 9, Roger said. We will go to her apartment. You will get your letter, and we will talk to Gordon Finch. But tonight, we eat dinner. For Lily's sake, we are going to be a family. Inside, the dinner was quiet but peaceful. Lily ate her stew and talked about her schoolteacher, Audrey Campbell, and her cat, Barnaby, who was still at the apartment. Barnaby is a coward, Lily explained, dipping a piece of bread in her stew. He is afraid of raccoons. You have to protect him, Dad. I will, I promised. I'll make sure no raccoons get near him. After dinner, Martha helped Lily into her pajamas. I sat on the edge of the twin bed in the guest room. The room was decorated with drawings of horses and a small collection of marine animal toys. I picked up the book on her bedside table, Charlotte's Web, and read her a chapter. Within 10 minutes, her eyes fluttered shut. She fell asleep, holding my forearm with one hand, her stuffed elephant tucked under her other arm. I stayed there for 30 minutes, watching her breathe, before leaving quietly to spend the night at a hotel in downtown Bend. I did not sleep. My mind was filled with Clara, the legal trust, and the little girl sleeping at the farm who was now my entire world. Clara's letter the next morning. I met Roger at the farm at 8:55 a.m. He was already sitting in his white pickup truck, waiting. We drove in silence to Clara's apartment, a small 2-bedroom unit in a cottage-style complex on the west side of Bend. Roger unlocked the door with his key and stepped back, letting me enter first. The apartment smelled like lavender, old wood, and coffee. Lily's colorful drawings of horses and trees were taped to the refrigerator. On the side table, there were framed photographs of Clara and Lily, laughing at a pumpkin patch, walking along the Oregon coast, and celebrating Christmas last year. In the last photo, Clara was wearing a knit cap, her face thin from the illness, but her smile was as bright as I remembered. On the wooden kitchen table sat a sealed white envelope with my name written in Clara's neat, looping handwriting. Roger looked at the envelope, then at me. I'll wait outside on the steps, Clifford. Take your time. I sat down at the table and opened the envelope. Inside were 6 pages of heavy cream stationery. The letter was dated 3 weeks before her death. Quinn, T. She had always called me by my middle name, Quinn, which was what she preferred. If you are reading this, I am gone. You have come for Lily, and you must have 1,000 questions. I am going to answer as many as I can. I am sorry I cannot do it in person. The summer of 2017 was real. I want you to know that. It was not a fling. I remember every walk by the river, every sunset, and how quiet and safe I felt with you. We were 2 guarded, independent people who let our defenses down for 6 weeks, then put them right back up because we were afraid of what it meant. In October of 2017, I found out I was pregnant. I made a decision in 12 hours that I have thought about every single day since. I decided not to tell you. My reasons then felt logical. I was 38, financially secure, with my parents living close by. I could raise a child. You were starting a new chapter in Portland, and you had told me you weren't ready for family responsibilities. I told myself I was being generous by not forcing this choice on you. But I was actually being a coward. I was terrified of rejection, terrified that I would tell you, and you would tell me you couldn't do it. I chose to protect my own pride over giving you a choice. I am so sorry for that. Lily was born on June 23, 2018. She is perfect. She has your quiet focus and your hands. I was a good mother to her, Quinn. I tried my best. Asterisk. In April of 2024, I was diagnosed with stage IV pancreatic cancer. The doctors gave me 18 to 24 months. I should have called you then, but I kept telling myself next week. The weeks ran out faster than I thought. 12 months ago, I hired a family attorney in Bend, Gordon Finch. We prepared everything. We drafted a voluntary acknowledgement of paternity under Oregon Revised Statutes, Section 109.070, and a custody petition under Section 109.103. I also established the Albright Vance Discretionary Family Trust to hold my share of the farm and my savings, naming you as successor trustee. I wanted to ensure that when the time came, you would have the legal authority to step in immediately. Asterisk. I added you to Lily's school emergency card 6 months ago. The school tried to call you to verify the change, but you didn't answer. Gordon's assistant tried too, but it went to voicemail. I assumed you screened unknown numbers. I told myself it didn't matter, that when the final call came, you would answer. I realize now how reckless that was. If you hadn't answered yesterday, I would have failed Lily. My parents believe you abandoned us. They think you knew about the pregnancy and refused to help. I never corrected them because I couldn't bear to admit my own fear and pride to my father. Please, show him this letter. He will be angry, but he will understand. He loves Lily more than life itself, and he will be your strongest ally if you give him time. Lily is 8 now. She loves horses. She is afraid of spiders. She reads at a 3rd grade level. She has a cat named Barnaby who is a coward, and you must protect him from the neighborhood raccoons. She knows about you, Quinn. For the last year, I have told her about her father in Portland who works with wood and who would come for her when the time was right. She is ready for you. Please, just be honest with her. Don't pretend to have all the answers. Just show up. I am not sorry that I am leaving her with you. She belongs to you as much as she ever belonged to me. I am only sorry for the 8 years we lost. Asterisk. Goodbye, Quinn. Mavis sat at the kitchen table for 30 minutes after I finished reading. The silence of the empty apartment pressed in on me. For the first time in years, the tears came, hot and heavy, spilling onto the cream paper. I folded the letter, walked outside, and sat on the concrete step next to Roger. The sun was bright, melting the morning frost on the grass. Without speaking, I handed him the letter. Roger took it, put on his reading glasses, and read it slowly. His hands shook slightly as he turned the pages. When he finished, he folded it carefully and handed it back to me. He stared at the graveled driveway for a long moment, his eyes wet. My daughter was a proud woman, Clifford, Roger said quietly. Too proud for her own good, and I was too blind to see it. I am sorry I blamed you. We both lost 8 years, Roger, I said. There is no point in blaming anyone now. So, what is your plan? Roger asked, turning to look at me. Are you taking Lily to Portland? No, I said. I'm moving to Bend. I can set up my woodworking workshop here. My clients are mostly custom orders, and I can ship from Bend. I will rent a house close to the farm. I want Lily to grow up knowing her grandparents. She needs you and Martha. Roger looked at me, a deep relief washing over his weathered face. He stood up and held out his hand. It was a firm, calloused hand, much like my own. Welcome to Bend, Clifford, he said. Let's go home and tell Lily. The legal path to DNA test was a procedural necessity, but Lily made it feel like an adventure. I took her to a local clinic in Bend that afternoon. She thought the cotton swab rubbing against the inside of her cheek was hilarious and giggled the entire time. The nurse gave her a blue sticker that read, "Brave patient," which Lily immediately pasted onto the forehead of Mr. Pickles, her stuffed elephant. The results came back 5 days later, confirming a 99.99% probability of paternity. That night I called my mother, Evelyn Vance, from my hotel room. She was 80 years old, retired, and living in Rochester, New York. I had not spoken to her in 2 weeks, and she was used to our quick, quiet updates. Mom, I said, leaning against the window overlooking the Bend skyline. "I need to tell you something. I have an 8-year-old daughter." There was a silence on the line, so long I thought the call had dropped. Then her voice came, soft and trembling. "Tell me everything, Quinn." I told her about Clara, the summer of 2017, the sudden phone call from Cascade Heights Elementary, the letter, and the little girl with the wooden puzzle who called me Dad. She listened for 40 minutes without interrupting once. When I finished, she said, "I am booking a flight to Bend tomorrow morning. I need to hold my granddaughter." Evelyn arrived 2 days later. Roger and Martha hosted us at the farm. When Lily walked out onto the porch, she looked at my mother, then at me. I had told her that morning about her grandmother from New York. Lily walked up to her, her hands behind her back, and said, "Hi, I'm Lily. I'm your granddaughter." My mother knelt on the wooden porch steps, her joints creaking, and pulled Lily into a tight hug. She cried quietly into Lily's brown hair. Martha stood in the doorway, wiping her eyes with her apron, while Roger sat in his wooden rocking chair, staring out at the pine forest, his hand on the armrest shaking. That evening, Martha made a chicken pie, and we all sat around the long wooden table. Evelyn told Lily stories about how I used to spend hours in the garage as a boy, building birdhouses and carving small wooden boats. Lily's eyes lit up as she looked at me, realizing where my love for woodwork came from. For the first time, the pieces of Lily's family were coming together. The legal transition was handled by my attorney in Portland, Nolan Miller. He coordinated directly with Clara's lawyer, Gordon Finch, in Bend. Gordon met with Roger and me at his office to explain the details of the Albright Vance Discretionary Family Trust. Clara was meticulous, Nolan told me over the phone after reviewing the files. The trust she set up under Oregon Revised Statutes, Chapter 130, is airtight. She put her 40% share of the farm and her savings into it, naming you as successor trustee. It means she knew you would protect Lily's inheritance. She also pre-signed the voluntary acknowledgement of paternity under ORS 109.70, and with the DNA results, the grandparents are not contesting custody. In fact, they are supporting your petition. This will be a cooperative custody hearing under ORS 109.103. It should take about 8 to 12 weeks to finalize. "I want Roger and Martha to have full visitation rights written into the agreement, Nolan," I said. "They raised her for 8 years. I won't take that away from them." "We will draft it exactly that way," Nolan agreed. The custody hearing took place on the 14th of May, 2025, in the Deschutes County Circuit Court. On the drive there, I was incredibly anxious, my hands gripping the steering wheel. Lily, sitting in the passenger seat, reached over and placed her small hand on mine. "It's okay, Dad. We're going to be together," she said. Her maturity astounded me. The courtroom was small, paneled in light oak. Judge Beatrice Gable, a 67-year-old woman who had served on the family court bench for 20 years, presided over the case. Roger took the stand to testify in support of my petition. He stood tall, his voice steady but emotional. "Your Honor," Roger said, looking at the judge, then at me, "my daughter Clara made a mistake by keeping Clifford Vance a secret, but she saw his character clearly at the end. She trusted him with her estate and her child. The man sitting there is the father my granddaughter has been waiting for. My wife and I support this petition fully. We only ask to remain a part of Lily's life as her grandparents." Judge Gable reviewed the DNA test results, the trust documents, and Clara's notarized letter. She looked down from the bench at me, her eyes kind but serious. "Mr. Vance," Judge Gable said, "Lily is a fortunate young girl. Her mother saw her own limitations and made sure her daughter would be cared for by the man she trusted most. Your job now is to be the father she has been waiting for. Are you prepared for this responsibility?" "Yes, Your Honor," I said. "Then the petition is granted. Clifford Vance is designated as the sole legal custodian of Lily Albright Vance, effective immediately." She struck her wooden gavel, the sound echoing in the quiet room. Lily, who had been sitting next to Martha in the front row, walked up to the defense table and slipped her hand into mine. Judge Gable looked down at her and smiled. "How are you doing today, Lily?" the judge asked. "Good, Your Honor," Lily replied. "Are you happy with this decision?" Lily nodded, holding my hand tighter. "Yes, Mom told me Dad would come from Portland when the time was right, and he did. Behind us, the court reporter was wiping her eyes. I sold my Portland condo in early June of 2025. I rented a yellow Craftsman bungalow on a quiet tree-lined street in Bend, just 6 minutes away from Roger and Martha's farm. I spent 2 weeks setting up Lily's room. I painted it a soft lavender, bought a wooden bed frame, and built a small reading nook in the corner with a comfortable armchair. On the 1st of July 2025, Lily moved in. She brought her stuffed elephant, Mr. Pickles, her clothes, a box of Clara's old photographs, and her cowardly cat, Barnaby. The first few weeks were not easy. The reality of her mother's absence was a constant shadow, and the transition tested us both in ways I had never expected. A new beginning the first month in the yellow Craftsman bungalow was the hardest. Lily woke up almost every night around 2 a.m., crying out for her mother. I would walk down the short hallway, sit on the edge of her lavender bed, and hold her hand. I did not try to offer empty platitudes, and I never tried to pretend I could replace Clara. Instead, I told her stories. I told her about the summer of 2017, about how her mother loved the yellow wild flowers that grew along the Deschutes River, and how she could name every pine tree just by looking at the bark. During the day while Lily was at summer camp, I spent hours in my new workshop in the garage. I took the small wooden puzzle toy she had brought from her mother's apartment. It was a beautiful piece of cherry wood, but the missing corner piece left it incomplete and unable to open. I selected a block of dark walnut wood, measuring the empty corner down to the millimeter. I spent 3 days carefully carving, sanding, and polishing a replacement piece. On a Friday evening in late July, I handed the puzzle back to Lily. I had stained the new corner piece a deep brown, contrasting beautifully with the red cherry wood. "Try it now," I said. Lily took the puzzle, slid the new walnut piece into the corner, and pushed. With a soft click, the puzzle box slid open, revealing a small hollow space inside. She looked at the box, then up at me, her dark eyes wide. "You fixed it," she whispered. "We fixed it," I said. "It's different now, but it's whole." She placed her mother's favorite silver ring inside the hollow space, closed the box, and placed it on her nightstand. Slowly, the seasons changed, and so did we. By August, Lily was sleeping through the night without waking. By October, she was laughing at my terrible dad jokes. By Christmas, she was sitting on a stool in the bathroom, bossing me around and correcting my hair braiding technique because I kept getting the strands tangled. By February of 2026, she was calling me Dad without pausing to think about it first. It is now the spring of 2026. I am 59 years old and Lily is 9. We have lived in the yellow Craftsman bungalow for almost a year. Every Sunday, Roger and Martha drive over for dinner. Martha is teaching Lily how to bake sourdough bread, and the kitchen is usually covered in flour by the time they are finished. Roger takes Lily to the farm on Saturdays to teach her how to tend the chickens. Lily named one of the hens Clara, and the rest of the flock now follows that single hen around the yard like she is in charge. My mother, Evelyn, visits from New York 4 times a year. She brings suitcases full of children's books and tells Lily embarrassing stories about my own childhood. My friend Bradley drove down from Portland last month, spending the weekend teaching Lily how to throw a softball in the backyard. She calls him Uncle Brad. I still work remote as a custom furniture designer, crafting tables and cabinets in my garage workshop while Lily is at school. I drive her to school every morning at 7:45, cook dinner most nights, and read to her before bed. I have not dated since the call from the school. I think I might, eventually. Lily's teacher, Audrey Campbell, is a kind woman, and we have spoken a few times when I pick Lily up from school, but I am not ready yet. There is still too much for me to learn about being a father first. Sometimes, when the house is quiet and Lily is asleep, I think about Clara. I do not think about her with anger anymore. Anger would not honor the woman who gave me my daughter. She made a choice that kept us apart, but she also spent the last years of her life ensuring that I would be able to step in when she was gone. She built the bridge, even if she couldn't walk across it with us. I think about the summer of 2017, the hikes at Smith Rock and the coffee at Lone Pine. I think about the daughter we made together without my knowledge, and how close I came to never knowing she existed. If the school had not had my phone number on file, if Diana Mercer had not been persistent enough to call a second time, if Roger had not had his cardiac episode that afternoon, if any one of those tiny links in the chain had broken, I would still be in my workshop in Portland with my headphones on, working on a dining table, eating a microwave dinner, having no idea that the most important person in my world was 3 hours away, waiting in a school office. It was not a wrong number. It was the phone call that saved my life. So, let me ask you something. If you received a phone call tomorrow telling you that you had a child you didn't know existed, what would you do? Would you doubt? Would you demand proof? Or would you get in your car and start driving? I almost asked for proof. I am very glad I didn't. Sometimes the call you least expect is the one that gives you back to yourself. If you have a child in your life who has been waiting for you to show up, whether they are your own or someone else's, leave their first name in the comments below. Just one name. I read every single one of them. If this story moved you, please hit the like button, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe for more stories. I will see you in the next one.